They say love letters never die, they only wait for the right moment to be found. In a quiet English village named Devon, there once lived a woman called Margaret Lewis, who carried a secret sealed inside an envelope for more than 50 years. The letter was never hers to write, only hers to receive, yet it never came. It all began in the summer of 1941, when the world was at war, and every street carried the echo of sirens and the distant hum of planes. Margaret was only 18 then, a nurse in training, young, full of life, yet afraid of a future that seemed uncertain. Every evening, as soldiers crossed the small stone bridge near her cottage, she would wait by the railing, pretending to look at the river, but truly waiting for one face, Thomas Harper, a Royal Air Force pilot with a smile that could calm a storm. He would tip his hat every time he saw her, and one evening he stopped. He said softly, "If I promise to come back from this war, will you promise to meet me here again?" She laughed nervously, shy and unsure, but said, "Only if you write to me first." He kept his word. From that day on, letters began to arrive, full of dreams and hope, of nights under the stars and plans of the life they would build after the war. He told her about the sound of the engines, about the fear before every flight, about how he would close his eyes and see her standing by the bridge, waiting. She replied with words that gave him strength, and in every letter she ended with the same line, "Come back to me." She kept each one tied with a blue ribbon beneath her pillow, counting the days until he would return. But then, one day, the letters stopped. No warning, no goodbye, just silence. It was the winter of 1944 when the radio spoke of fallen planes and missing pilots. Among the names listed was Flight Lieutenant Thomas Harper. Margaret refused to believe it. For months she waited at the bridge, in rain and snow, clutching the old letters to her chest. But the war is cruel. It takes what it wants and leaves silence behind. She cried for nights that never seemed to end, and then slowly she learned to live again. She married a kind man named Edward, raised 2 children, and built a quiet life, but somewhere inside her heart, a piece stayed frozen in 1944. Every night before sleeping, she whispered, "I hope you made it, Thomas. I hope you're happy, wherever you are." Time moved on. The world changed. Years passed, faces faded, and memories became dust. Then, one autumn morning in 1997, a renovation crew was repairing the old post office in Devon. Behind a loose brick wall, they found a small pile of undelivered wartime letters, most of them faded and unreadable, but one envelope was still sealed, perfectly preserved, the paper yellow but strong. The address read, "Miss Margaret Lewis, Rosewood Cottage, Devonshire." The sender, Flight Lieutenant Thomas Harper. The date, December 18th, 1944. The letter had never been delivered because the post office had been bombed that winter. When a local reporter read about it, he decided to find out if Margaret was still alive. Weeks later, he stood at the door of a quiet nursing home, holding the letter. Margaret was 75 now, her hair silver, her eyes gentle but tired. When he handed her the envelope, her hands began to shake. The handwriting was unmistakable. She pressed the paper to her lips before opening it, as if afraid it might vanish. Inside was a single page, written in fading blue ink. "My dearest Margaret, if you are reading this, it means I made it through one more night. We're flying out tomorrow. I can't tell you where. But know this, every mile I fly, I'm flying toward the promise I made you by the bridge. If I don't come back, please don't forget that you were my home. All my love." Thomas' tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered his name over and over, as if the sound alone could bring him back. She held the letter to her heart and smiled. That night she told the nurse, "Now I know. He didn't leave me. The letter just took too long to find me." 3 weeks later, Margaret passed away in her sleep, peacefully, the letter resting on her chest. At her funeral, her daughter placed that same letter in her mother's hands before the coffin closed. Some days later, the family visited the war archives and found a forgotten record. Thomas Harper's plane had crashed behind enemy lines, but he had survived for several days, writing one last message before being captured. That message was the letter that had waited half a century to be found. Today, that letter and a photograph of Thomas and Margaret stand in the Devon War Museum under a small plaque that reads, "Love doesn't end. It just waits to be rediscovered." Every Valentine's Day, someone leaves a single white rose beneath the glass case. No one knows who it is. Some say it's Margaret's granddaughter, others say it's something deeper. That love, in its own quiet way, keeps its promises even when time forgets. Because sometimes the universe delays a story, not to end it, but to remind us that true love never expires. It only waits. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your love and support keep this channel alive.